come to drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We're gonna drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We're gonna drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We come to drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
From aerospace and defense, healthcare to media conglomerates, many of the top performing Fortune 500 companies and government agencies have utilized Anisa Rashad Enterprises, consulting, coaching, and speaking services to improve their performance and maximize their profits. As executive coach and keynote speaker to leaders in companies like Starbucks, Northrop Grumman, and Booz Allen Hamilton, Anisa Rashad delivers solutions that accelerate business growth. Functioning as CEO of Anisa Rashad Enterprises with over 25 years of experience, Anisa holds an MBA from the Johns Hopkins University and has served as an adjunct professor at University of California, San Diego, Rady School of Management. Her key focus areas are driving change, developing diverse talent, particularly women, and leading strategic initiatives to accelerate business growth and performance. Anisa's most important values include faith, family, fitness, quiet time, and work that serves others. I would like to welcome my friend, life coach, Anisa Rashad, to the Bomb Shelter. Welcome to the show, homegirl. How are you?
Thank you. I'm super excited about being on Soundbomb. I am a listener, a subscriber, so it is very exciting for me to be on with you today.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I know you've been traveling quite a bit all over the country. Let's talk about that. How do you handle work and travel and maintaining your family life? I mean, you're all over the place because I'm watching you travel all over the place. How do you maintain that balance?
You know, it's very interesting. For so many years, I was inside of corporate before I transitioned, and I thought that it might will be a little different doing it for myself, but I found that the work is the work. You have to be really up for the task. And how do I do it? I have many ways that I do it. I do it, one, through living what I call my JIL. And I know you're going to talk about that later, so I was hesitant to jump into it, but that is what I do. That is how I do it. And for those of you listening, I know I've been in rooms before where someone will bring up something and they'll talk about it, and I don't know what it means, but I'm like, am I the only person who doesn't know what this means? And so if you're out there listening and you don't know what a JIL is today, we're going to give you a pass. You are excused, because a JIL is really just something I made up, Lamar. It's a JIL, a juicy integrated life.
Wait, say that really one more time. Or what? I like how you sound saying it. That sounds kind of fly. Say it one more time.
It is a JIL, a juicy integrated life.
So we're not talking about Jilly from Philly, huh? We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about Jilly from Philly. We're talking about a juicy integrated life. And really all that is creating a life that you don't need a vacation from.
So how does someone do that? Since you jump right into Jill, how does someone create that juicy, innovative life? And is it just for women? Can men be juicy too? I mean, I know that sounds kind of strange, right?
Absolutely. Do you understand that's one of my most frequently asked questions when I go inside of corporations and go to companies and I speak and I talk. They ask me, men come up to me and say, hey, Anisa, I want a JIL. Can I get a JIL too? And really one of the first steps in creating a JIL is you have to get clarity around what is important to you. You got to have a clear picture in your mind of what it looks like or what you want it to look like.
So what is that process of creating or maintaining clarity? Let's walk us through your personal clarity, because a lot of times when I got some amazing people to come on this show. I create this show just because I got some dope friends. And I want people to know I got some dope friends in my circle. Some people that are ordinary, some people that are extraordinary, and you are one of those extraordinary people. But how do you then create clarity? What does that look like for you?
And so it's interesting that you say that. One of the most if I look at the things that my clients come to me for, so my clients are very accomplished. I run Anisa Rashad Enterprises. We literally, if I walk through my last 4 weeks, I have served, and I truly feel an honor to serve. I have served clients in Australia, New Zealand, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Beijing, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore. Stateside, I've been to New York. Of course, I serve clients here in LA. I have coaching clients in Melbourne, Florida, St. Louis, Guadalajara in Mexico, Ohio. Like, this is what my life is. And how I got to this life is I had to get a clear picture about what I wanted to look like. You talk about the clarity. I want to remind you, I don't know if you remember years ago, we talking 20 years ago at this point, I was still an employee at NASA at the time, sitting in your living room, right? Mm-hmm. You, your wife, we're all sitting there. And I had a vision for this. I had a vision for being able to work with women and to help them. I didn't have a name for it like a JIL, but I know that I wanted them to be able to have a life that wasn't just busy, but a life that was full, right? That was filled full of the things that had value to them and the things that really had purpose. And so it's amazing to me to go from there to get to here. So one of the things I did is I took the process that I took myself through and I created a program called 30 Days to Clarity, which does that. If you are not clear about what your best next move is, I sort of put it all into a little 30-day process that you can walk yourself through in order to get that clarity that you need and you desire.
And so you bring your clients through this 30-day process.
Right. I take my clients through 30 Days to Clarity.
So let's talk about your clients. So, I love Tony Robbins, and I'm sure you've been around him because you work with a lot of people. It says Tony Robbins has said that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. I couldn't agree more. So what are some of the preliminary questions you typically ask of your clients when you first start working with them? And then what are some questions you typically ask yourself as you're approaching a client or an agency or an organization?
So the first thing I ask myself is, how can I be of the best and highest service to this client? And so I look at each time I get to go into an organization or work with an individual, because organizations are really the people inside of the organization. So I am a person who leads with prayer. And my prayer is, God, as I go into this room, each person that is in the space, I want them to leave with what I call a dose of inspiration, some real-time strategies, and a dose of inspiration. So I try to keep my gifts bite-sized. I want to give you a little bit, a dose of inspiration, and some real-time strategies that after you sit in that room, after you have that experience, if it's hearing me do a keynote speech or if it's from one of our coaching sessions, you can leave that session and go and take immediate action on what you do. And so I ask myself, how can I be of best and highest service? I ask the company, what do you want as the outcome from the work that we are doing? What do you want the people in your organization to be doing differently in terms of a behavior change? What do you want them to be saying in terms of the language so we can help you craft your key messages that you flow down moving forward? What do you want them to be feeling in terms of the environment? What do you want the work environment to feel like? Like you want them to walk in and kind of skipping in the door and they're feeling like, yes, this is a place I want to get up and come be a part of and share my gifts and skills and talents to help this organization grow. So I help them basically get clear on the picture they want once the work is done. So that's how I work with the organization. On an individual, I may ask, if you and I were getting ready to start working together, I would say, Lamar, what do you want your life to look like? Does the frame of your life match what it feels like? You understand what I say? What I'm saying what I mean when I'm saying that? Like when you look at the picture of your life, does it look good on the outside? It's shiny, it's pretty. It may look like a big title, a big pay, a high salary, a nice home in a nice neighborhood, the luxury car of your choice, children in private school. Like the picture the frame of it looks good, but is there a mismatch? Is there a disconnect? Is it incongruent between the way it appears to be and the way it actually feels to be inside of your life? Because what I'm going for, what I want to work with you on, is helping you have the feeling of your life match what the picture of your life may look like.
So where does that drive come from? Let's go back and talk about little Anisa. Where does this drive come from where you want to help reshape individuals' lives? Is this something that you learned at a very young age? I know you grew up in the South. Now you're living on the West Coast. Let's talk about that.
So I think that comes from watching my parents. Me and my sister were talking about this recently. My parents lived a life of service in front of me and my sister. So my dad had basically like a lifetime appointment as the president of the community association for the community that we lived in. Watching my mother, they were active in church ministry. They were active in the community. They were active in the city that we lived in. I remember a school getting ready to get closed down in the African American community, and my father rallying people and getting them together to keep that school open for those children in that community. So I think that it was modeled for me, like I saw it. So it just seemed like that's how you're supposed to live. I think that a lot of it came from that.
Wow. So of course, I'm a huge researcher. I'm a huge fan of yours. We go way, way, way back. And what's interesting, you think you know people until you really start to dig deep and deep and deep. And so what I discovered, Anisa, you have some of the most amazing clients. While doing my research, I came across a ton of videos where people were giving such great compliments about how much fun they had. And I know you a lot of fun because we done kicked it. We done kicked it at concerts. We done had deep conversations. We walked on a beach together. Our families have been together. So I know how much fun you are. But sometimes when you're so close to a person, you don't realize how sharp they are. And so when I was doing my research, I discovered these people. They talked about how attentive you were to their needs. So let's take a listen to what one of your past clients had to say, and then I want to get your reaction from it.
My name is Jessica Mack, and I'm a principal manager at Southern California Edison. I was drawn in by Anisa's energy and her experience and personality that she brings to coaching has just been a wonderful experience for me. I've had executive coaches in the past, and what I've been able to do with Anisa through her help has just been like no other. What makes Anisa really special is the fact that she's able to meet you where you are. She takes in what you're thinking about and has this ability to just unlock what you already know inside and where you want to go with your career goals and dreams. And she helps to be able to paint the picture of what that looks like for you in your future, and then helps you on a path of how to get there.
I love that client. And I have to say a little confession is that I secretly fall in love with all of my clients. I don't necessarily tell them that, but I do. I get so excited about the big things they're doing in the world. It's interesting because I'm at the point in my life, in my career, and in my personal life, as well as my career, where I get to choose my clients. And so I believe that it's a two-way street. My clients select me, but I also choose who I get to work with. And at this point, I work with clients who have lived a little and accomplished a lot. So most of my clients are very senior in their organizations. I do executive coaching for clients who have really gotten to some of the highest places in the organization. And oftentimes they're at a place where they realize, my next promotion, like there's nothing else left for me in this organization. I'm kind of at the top of this organization. So my next promotion may be outside of this organization. Or they're at a place where they feel, I'm doing good work here, but they have a passion project that I call, or that side hustle you might call, something that they want to do. So I help them really legitimize their side hustle. I help them figure out a way that they can take that side hustle or that passion project or that conversation that we had in your living room 20 years ago and make it into a thriving business where they're serving people around the globe.
So what do you believe is the secret to your success?
Oh, my secret sauce, I think it's my perspective. It is my perspective. It is the way that I approach life, the way that I look at it, the way that I look at a problem. Oh my gosh, life, so many challenges. And I just look at it in terms of, Anisa, baby, it ain't over unless you quit. Unless you just quit, it isn't over. And I have found that level of commitment, that level of consistency, listen to my values, that level of consistency, that level of discipline, that level of stick-to-itness, that is what is required for you to get it from something that's swimming around in your head, swimming around in your heart, to making it an actual reality out here in the world. And what did I do? I had the good, I guess the ability to recognize that I don't know what I don't know. So I went and got teachers to help me. Like, I'm not the first person to do this. People before me had already done it. You talked about Tony Robbins. I went to the Tony Robbins and I learned from him and I walked on fire. You know, I went to Lisa Nichols and I did her global leadership program. I learned from some amazing people as I came along on this journey so that I could get to where I am today. One thing I learned is I think I don't know if I still am. In some ways I am sometimes surprised that inside of large organizations, and I've always worked inside of large organizations. I work for NASA, I work for Northrop Grumman. So, but I'm still surprised sometimes you expect a larger organization to have more systems in place, to have things in place to help the organization run efficiently. And whereas they are very bureaucratic, they have a lot of processes, they do have systems, but some very basic things sometimes inside of large organizations are broken. And so the lesson I learned and the takeaway that I have, I try to make sure my business operates with very good systems that drive the work that we do. And so that's a lesson learned. I think same thing, another lesson learned in terms of working with individuals and large organizations is that reminder that one person who is really passionate about what they do, they really can start a drop that turns into a wave that really, you know, drives change inside of an organization. And so the way that I work with my clients is that I may partner with you. So I may have a client that I'm your individual executive coach. Then I may also partner with you to do a leadership offsite for your team, helping them, you know, with organizational effectiveness things, team issues. And then we may end up from that developing a leadership and professional development training program that rolls across the entire organization. So there are lots of ways that I work with my leaders. And all of it is really about helping them to be the best that they can be, to create an organization where their people thrive, to create a life where they thrive.
So I want to backtrack a little bit because as people are listening to this show, they heard you mention, and even in my intro, that you worked for NASA, you worked for Northrop Grumman, you worked for these large agencies. Talk about what it was like to leave those agencies and then to step out on faith to do your own thing. Because somebody's listening and like, man, I'm afraid to step out. I work for this big agency. It could be Google, it could be Amazon, but I'm afraid to step out. What was it like for you to take a leap of faith, to walk away from this good job that your mother and father prepared you to do when you left college?
So I'm chuckling to myself because there's a few things. A lot of people are miserable inside of their corporate gig. Like they're inside of it and they're like, oh, it's just draining the life out of me. And I get that because I work with a lot of people like that. Let me tell you, I was a person who loved my corporate job. I love getting a paycheck deposited in my account every other week on Friday. Do you understand what I'm saying?
High five right there. Direct deposit is blessed. We love it.
Hello. was my friend. I love buying 5 airline tickets for our family to go to our place in Maine in the summertime. Just like boom, boom, boom. I love traveling on the company corporate card. And so because I really loved what I was doing inside of corporate, it really was a act of faith for me to make the transition to leave. And the reason I left is because, God said it's time. You are doing great work inside of this organization, but you need a bigger platform. There are more people that you have to help, and they're not all bad to this specific organization. And so you would appreciate this. You mentioned earlier that I'm from the South. But when I got ready to leave NASA, my grandmother, she told me, she said, baby, don't let the devil wrestle out your hand what God done gave you. Okay, so I'm gonna translate
that for my folks who don't have a big mama or a grandmama or a Medea, abuelita. Break that down for all these college educated folks out there.
What that means is, girl, you done got you a good job, right, with some good benefits and a good paycheck. Why in the world would you want to leave? Like, just the fact that you would have the thought to leave that level of security, to leave that type of income, to go do something that's not sure, that's not guaranteed, it has to be the devil, right? It has to be an evil spirit that would make you have such a thought.
And you did it anyway.
And I did it anyway. And
so what was that like, though? Walk us through that. I mean, walk us through what that process looked like for you, and how did you prepare yourself, or did you prepare yourself?
And so I absolutely prepared myself. And I'll tell you what the process looked like for me. It looked like fear. It looked like me, but this is how God prepared me. And so a few years, about 2 to 3 years before I left, I started, God was preparing my mind. So I have a principle that I live by. So each year in January, I select a principle that I am going to really focus on for the year. And so the year that I married my husband, the principle I was focusing on was love, right? The year that I left corporate, I was practicing surrender. That was my principle. This year, just so for your information, my principle that I'm practicing is consistency, is really being consistent in the things that are important to me. But the year that I practiced surrender, that was the year that I had to surrender my will, right, and do what I was being called to do. And it's so interesting because I had done the work. I had done the preparation. So I am a planner. If I'm anything, I am strategic and I'm a planner. So in my journal, I had started a familiar passage that you would know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. One day I read it and it jumped off the page. It literally leaped off the page at me. And what I wrote in response to what I read was, God is my source. I shall never want. God is my source. Then I would write it again. I would write it. You know how you do standards on the board? You write it. I would literally have pages in my journal. God is my source. I shall not want. Then I would say, God is my source. I shall not want. And I would say, God is my source. I shall not want. God is my source. So I would just
go. So you just walking around the house, hand on your hip, hand in the sky, waving your hand, saying all those things over and over again. High-fiving yourself.
I was writing it. Every day.
But every time you said it, that intent was stronger.
Absolutely.
Your voice was stronger.
Absolutely. And then what I was saying is, I shall never want. And so what that did is God first shifted my mindset so that I could understand that God, not X corporation, right? Not this person, not this thing over here. God is my source. And that job, that corporate gig was a source. It was a means that God was using to provide for me, but it wasn't the means.
If you could only share one message with the world about your work, what would that be?
It would be, in life, The little things are everything. The little things are everything. My mother recently made her transition, and people will still bump into me and they ask me about my mom because we were very close. And, when I reflect on her, or if I say, oh, she's made her transition, when I reflect on her, what comes up for me, so interesting. It's not the 4th of July. It's not Christmas. So when I say the 4th of July, it's not necessarily the fireworks. It's really those little things, those special moments. Though, when I was in Dallas and I flew her to Dallas, I was in Dallas working, and I often would have her fly to meet me wherever I was working. And I took her to Bishop T.D. Jakes' church. Or, these little things, us riding the cruiser bike on the beach, and I didn't tell her how far she was going. And, at 70 years old, she's like 8.9 miles. She's riding on the beach, and she doesn't even realize she rode the bike out that many miles, because guess what? She's going to have to ride it back that many miles. But because we're on the beach, and it's beautiful, and it's sunny, and she's enjoying it, she doesn't even realize what she's doing. It's all of these little moments that right now are priceless to me. When I say they're priceless, they are priceless. And so because in life, the little things are everything, you can't get too busy. If you are listening to me and you don't take anything away from this conversation, what I want you to know is you cannot ever get too busy to notice, to pay attention to, or to show up for the little things. Because at the end of the day, I promise you, the little things are everything.
And when you talk about little things, we talk about the simple little things to then build these bigger things. One, getting up earlier than you typically do, going to bed earlier, something small, adding a new vegetable to your diet, or listening to a new song. Because people look at us and they look at our lives and the people that I bring on this show, and they say that they want the things that we have. And we're not just talking about the physical things, but we're just talking about having the access that you right now. The little thing is that you run your own business. You can be you in the bomb shelter with me right now doing an interview. If you were still doing a 9 to 5, it would be different. And so people say they want the things that we have, but if you want those things, you have to be willing to do the things that we do to get there. Now, when I say those things, I'm not talking about the very, very specific things, because again, I would be vain to say you need to change your diet like me. You need to get up at this time. You need to listen to that. No, but understanding that this comes with hard work and commitment and dedication. You can't get around that. If you want something different to happen in your life, you have to do different things. And so speaking of those things, let's talk about we talked about your schedule, but let's talk about your morning routine. How do you start your day, and what does that look like? A typical day for you.
So I'll tell you, like I told my husband when we were dating. And so my husband and I, we dated coast to coast. He was on the East Coast, I was on the West Coast. And so our time together, we would meet we meet in San Francisco, or we meet wherever in Florida, or we meet somewhere for a weekend of fun, right? So it was all good. And what I had to tell him and help him understand as we were moving closer to like marriage, be very clear that at my core, I am a spiritual being, right? At my core, these daily practices that I'm getting ready to tell you about, this is who I am. Having fun at the party, jogging on the beach, all these things that, eating a particular way, all of that, the reason I'm able to do all of the fun stuff and to show up high energy and be Anisa. And when people use Anisa, they use it like a verb, right? When the reason I'm able to do that is because of what I do. It's what I call, Lamar, and I'm happy to share it with your guests. It's called my morning jam, right? And I invite everyone who's listening to get up and jam with Anisa. And what is that jam? It stands for JAMMM. The J is for journaling. The A is for affirmations. The M is for mental rehearsal, or some people may call it visualization. The other M is for meditation, and the last M is for movement. And so I have created a morning routine that you could do every day, no matter what. Why? Out of necessity, because my life looks different from day to day. And, one day I may have to do my morning routine in a hotel where I have to be at a client site at 6 or 7 a.m. On another day, I may have to do my morning routine in the airport because I'm in transition and I'm flying. But I've created a morning routine that you could do every day, no matter what. And I call it the morning jam. And if your guests are interested in doing that, they could go to AnisaRashad.com. It'll be a little pop-up. If you put your name and email address in there, I've actually created a morning jam jumpstart kit. So
give us one of those one of those jewels from the jumpstart kit. Again, this is the little things again that add up. What's one thing that you do?
One of the little things is an understanding and first it's a commitment that you're going to do it every day. So one of the things that I do that I'm very proud of, I move my body every day, no matter what. Every day, no matter what. And the deal is you can do it no matter how much time you have. And so you can do the morning jam if you only have 5 minutes. You can do the morning jam if on a Saturday, you might have a luxurious hour and a half. It depends on you. I've created so that no matter how much time you have. So one of the jewels is simply getting up. If you're in a hotel room, you could put your iPhone, and I've done this more times than I can count, put it on a 5-minute timer. First minute, you can do jumping jacks for a minute. Timer go off. Next interval, you can do squats for a minute. Next interval, do push-ups for a minute. You could literally get a 5-minute workout in if that's all you had on that particular day. And then on another day that you had more time, you might work out for 30 minutes. Or you may work out for an hour. And my commitment is to move my body. It's not necessarily to a workout. So moving my body, some days look like me going for a walk. Other days it looks like going for a run, going to the gym, going to a yoga class. It can look very different depending on what my life is dictating for that day.
So let's talk
about what I know.
Let's talk about what your day looks like when you don't do those things.
So I'm pretty consistent about doing it, but on the days that I don't, and what will happen is I will maybe not do my morning jam first thing in the morning, and I'll do it a little bit later. And this is what overall my general sense of the day is I'm not as clear. I'm not as clear about what I need to do, because one of the things that I work with my clients on that I live by is being very clear about the difference between activity and results. A lot of people find themselves getting up every day and they have a to-do list. And what do? They end up doing a lot of stuff because of their to-do list. What I focus on are outcomes. Every day I have a specific outcome that I want for that day. I don't have 25 things that are my outcomes. I have one major outcome. That means something that's actually done, not something that I started on, not something that I'm waiting to hear back from you on. It's complete, it's done. I can move on to the next thing because I try to focus it on results and not on activities. I think in the U.S., we've gotten very, the way we look at things, it's almost like we confuse being busy with being important.
Yeah, and it's interesting you would say that because you have clients from all over the country, which you referenced in the beginning. And I think people do. They say busy, the way they start, I got a lot. Even when they approach the work, think about that. Like, what's going on? Man, it's going to be a heavy day. Or I got a crazy schedule. Today was hectic. Even when we put it out there and we write these long to-do lists, and then we it's like a to-don't list because we don't accomplish it. And then when we don't accomplish those things, then we beat ourselves up. So my question is to you. Why do some people constantly keep getting stuck? Because again, they have all these books. They call them self-help, but other folks call them shelf-help books because they sit up there all the time. Why do people get stuck all the time? Why won't they do what you're saying that you do? Why won't they study the most successful or the, let's say, the most productive people? Why won't they do those things?
I think one of the big things, not for any lack of desire, they don't feel like they have the time. They've gotten caught into this merry-go-round of life, and they're just moving, and they're going along with the next activity. Oftentimes I do this, talk about the people in corporate America where you get a job and you get tapped for the next job and tapped for the next job, and then that one requires that you move across the country. And so your life gets into this cycle, this pattern, because it's not intentional. But once you become intentional, this is what I tell you about your time. You may not have enough time to do everything, but you always have enough time to do what's most important. I'm going to say it again because I think some people got it, but a few people listening missed it. And so I'm going to say it again. You may not have time to do everything, but you always have time to do what's most important. It's so much in there. Like, we could spend our whole time just unpacking that. There's a lot that goes into that. One is you got to understand what is most important to you. Hence, that's why I have the 30 Days to Clarity program, because you got to start there. So people are on that merry-go-round doing all this stuff because they're not even really clear what they should take off their plate. And so I'm a big proponent of saying no. I get pleasure from saying no. No, that's just not something I'm committed to right now. So I get asked to do a lot of these interviews, but I don't take them all because I'm clear I don't have the bandwidth to do all the things. So I just pick and choose the ones that look, fit into my JIL, the ones that I know I will enjoy.
Well,
for my clients.
Well, we are glad
I want to
you
be
joined
excited
us.
about getting on. Oh, absolutely. I want to be excited about getting on the phone with one of my clients. The last thing I want to do is it's 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday and I got to get on the phone with a client. I'm like, oh God, it's the sound bombing podcast. Oh Lord.
Well, we are glad and honored that you're here. What you talked about, focusing on things that's most important. So what's right now, today, what's the most important thing for Anisa Rashad and maybe Rashad Enterprises?
I have a few things that are important to me right now. And so one of the things is the Life podcast that we'll be launching in January. Another one is a women's program that we get the honor to develop inside of a 90,000 person company. And we're developing a program that will actually help accelerate the careers of women inside of that organization. And it has concrete, solid metrics like how many women who participated in this program were promoted within 1 year, were promoted in 2 years. And so we're creating dashboards to actually track how successful the program is. So being able to develop that I know is going to be an inroad and a roadmap to help women, that is very important to me because that's at the nucleus of the work that I do. What's important to me right now is, and you have this challenge, I'm sure, this dynamic of scaling my business, being able to serve more people on a bigger platform. And so one of the things that I'm working on behind the scenes, we are feverishly working on turning some of our signature programs, like that 30 Days to Clarity program, making it into an online program where you're able to access it, get all the goodness from the program online, without me having to go somewhere and be somewhere, or without me having to be on the line. So I'm recording videos and audios and things to be able to do that teaching so that you can get that learning at your own pace. You can get it on the click of a download. So that is important to me right now, being able to, as I grow, being able to scale and being able to serve. Because what happens is some of the, real talk, some of the lower dollar price programs will fall off because you don't have time to do everything. And so I want to make sure that I'm able to service everybody at every level. And so we're creating these online programs and be able to make sure you can still get your clarity.
All right. So I know you work with a lot of executive CEOs that are women. What do you think is the most significant barrier to female leadership?
Access.
Explain that.
I think it's access. It's access. It's interesting because even today, a lot of companies are still run by good old boys club, like, companies that we we develop programs inside of. Another barrier is the way that women leaders sometimes view themselves. And it's interesting, and it's a lot of layers to it. But so on one level, you feel, you're doing the work and you've accomplished. You may have gotten to a senior manager level, or you may be at a mid-level manager level, and you're trying to break through to get to that senior manager level. A lot of women struggle with the imposter syndrome. They're there, and they're like, oh my God, if they really find out that I really am not supposed to be here, I'm not even sure how I got here, that type of thing. And so it's helping them with their own mindset, their own perspective, and understanding some simple. We have a session, a program that's around intentional networking, and it's teaching women how to make strategic business relationships inside of their corporation. And so this is not going somewhere and passing out your business cards. It really is about making these strategic business connections inside and outside of your organization to help accelerate your career.
What woman inspires you and why?
Oh, it's so easy. My mother has been my greatest inspiration. And what she taught me is that you don't have to talk loud. You don't have to look at me. You can just quietly move in the world in an intentional, purposeful way, and you can impact lots of lives. You can change lots of lives by just moving through the world, being intentional and being purposeful. And the lessons that people learn oftentimes are not even just what you say, it's but what they observe. It's what they observe by watching your life. That's my inspiration.
So I was on your site and doing my research like I do. I go hardcore because I'm pulling up stuff that people just can't Google. I'm talking to people. But I came across a statement that says, we believe that a woman's heels are one of the most memorable items that she can wear to make an impression. Explain that to me.
And so when I was thinking about them, so everything about Anisa Rashad Enterprises is very intentional. And we do not have one product that was not specifically created and designed and built to make the life of the executives that we serve easier, better, run smoother, get more meaning, get more joy. That is everything that we do. And so I was envisioning, how can we have something that, as women, that no matter where you are in the world, that we can easily connect to. That's why I came up with the shoes, the high heel shoes. And what it is not all of us want to be mothers, right? Many of us are, but not everybody has the desire to be a mother. Now, everybody enjoys cooking. My best friend for years would say that cooking was relaxing for her. And it took me a long time to get to that space to where I felt like cooking was relaxing for me. And so cooking is a long time before I got to that space. And so it's not for everybody. Cooking is not for everybody. But what I came to, a good pair of high heel shoes.
You said a good pair.
If you are a woman, a good pair. Even if you can even if your knees are bad from all them years we did step aerobics back in the 90s, right? Even if you can't wear a pair, most women can appreciate a good pair of high heel shoes, and so that's how I
don't know how you all. I've seen you dance in those high heels. I've seen Beyonce. I don't know how you guys do it, but I definitely understand sort of the metaphor of the high heel shoes. So this is the part. This is the part of the show. My favorite part of the show. This is called the Super Bomb Questions. The Super Bomb Question. And so I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to respond as quickly as you can. Don't give it a whole bunch of thought, but I want you to respond as quickly as you can. Okay, are you ready?
Oh boy!
All right. What's your favorite word?
Oh my goodness, my favorite word. I love this already. My favorite word is intention.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh my goodness. These really make you think. A waterfall.
What's your
The sound of a waterfall.
sound of a waterfall? What's your superpower?
My superpower is my perspective.
And what's your spirit animal?
My spirit animal. Wow. A bear.
When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or have lost your focus temporarily, what do you do?
There's only one thing to do. Be still.
If
You have to be still and listen.
What are you reading?
Oh, so I'm an avid reader, and I'm always reading multiple things. So right now, I am rereading a book that I read probably 20 years ago, Seat of the Soul.
Okay.
So I'm rereading Seat by Gary Zukav.
Great
I'm
book.
rereading that. Oh, it's a great book.
All right. What are you listening to? What are you listening to?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what is getting me really pumped. I'm like very eclectic with my music taste, but one thing that's just getting me really pumped every time I hear hear "Boss" by the Carters, it is like every time I hear it, like no matter where I'm like, "Boss," yeah, I love that. It just makes me bounce a little bit, just raise my vibration. And specifically when she talks about this line where she says, because that's a lot of brown children on your Forbes list. That's the line that just really makes me get so excited. I measure success by how many people are successful next to you, like how many people around you are successful. Yeah. I really like that line. And the line, because I'm really focusing right now on creating like 200-year plan for our family. How can we create wealth so that
Legacy.
Our great grandchildren, yes, are taken care of? And so when I hear it in the song, I'm like, see, this is what I'm talking about right here.
What is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made?
You know, my children, my family. It is like the gift that will keep on giving. They bring me joy in so many ways. I have a daughter who just started her freshman year in college. So she literally just went last week. So that's exciting. I have a son who just started his freshman year of high school. And so it's a year of transition, newness. And so investing in my family has been the biggest thing. Me and my sister have a joke, and we say, hashtag real moms show up. And that is, we're going to get us some t-shirts, because what we mean by that is like with the fullness of my life, right? How full it is, how much it requires me to be gone and to be on the road. I'm real clear of what's important to me. Real moms show up for their kids.
What will be the biggest challenge for the generation of women behind you?
The biggest challenge for the generation of women behind me, it's really finding, it's funny. So I'll say it this way. When I'm looking at it, I feel like the challenge is going to be for the corporation and not necessarily the women, because women are making powerful choices. They're making choices, through dualpreneurship to empower themselves to be able to be inside of the company or outside of the company. So the biggest challenge they'll have is really figuring out how to sculpt and craft a life for themselves of their choosing, and not to be caught up on the merry-go-round.
Wow. So that's a great way to end the show. So how can our listeners get in contact with Anisa Rashad?
So I love to interact with all the great folks that I get to meet either virtually. These days, a lot of people virtually as well as people I meet face to face. You can get in contact with me. I am at Anisa Rashad at everything. So first, you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, right? And so I'm Anisa Rashad on LinkedIn. I'm Anisa Rashad on all the social media channels. So that would be on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. One of the things I have to say, I have not been active on social media in the past, as active as some other people are. And it's because most of my business has been relationship based. So inside of my HR directors that I work with or HR VPs, they don't care how many Facebook likes I have. That's not a metric that they use to evaluate our services. And so I didn't put a lot of emphasis on that. But with the launch of the podcast, we've been putting out really good stuff. We have a monthly life note. So if you're interested in getting that, you can let us know that we put out. So we're going to be way more visible on social media. So find us. And if you don't see us, hold us accountable. Ask, like, why are you not there? Probably because I'm on an airplane somewhere. But but definitely challenge us to stay out there and stay visible. Again, it's at Anisa Rashad. The website is anisarashad.com.
Anisa, I know you are busy and I know you traveling all over. So I just want to thank you for joining me in the bomb shelter. You have been amazing. I wish you much success. And for all the women that are listening out there, I know that her message is a message of inspiration and a message of hope. And I would also like to thank my producer, Darius Wilmore, and Supremacy for our theme music, and all of you listening. And as always, believe that something wonderful is about to happen and that some people miss the message because they are too busy looking for the mess. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have not subscribed, please become a subscriber because we want to reach the masses. And so thank you. You've been listening to Sound Bombing.